Hey there friends, have you ever wondered how I make my videos, what equipment I use, what are my processes and everything? Well, you're in luck, because today I am going to give you a full download on what that looks like. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, bringing you the love of poi spinning and flow arts, and this month the theme is Inside of Drex's Head, and we're starting off with a tour of my home studio. Before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow DNA, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these amazing companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. So first things first, I live in a one-bedroom apartment in Tacoma Park, Maryland. I'm just about 200 feet over the state line between Maryland and DC. So still have access to the city, but you know, it's also one of those things that I'm in a place where it's slightly less expensive to live, and I have access to the park across the street, which is a place that I go to film a lot of my videos that wind up on Instagram. But when I come down to shooting some of my videos for this channel, I try to shoot a lot of them inside this home studio here. And I'm going to go ahead and give you all a walkthrough of exactly what the equipment that I use looks like and what the process that I use looks like. So I tend to use the same setup for most of my studio shoots, which involves two primary lights as well as a backdrop behind me. And as you can see behind me here, basically the backdrops go across my living room widthwise. I have basically this rack of backdrops here, as well as two lights. I have a primary light and I have a fill light over on that side of the room. Let's go take a look at each of those. So my primary light here and my fill light are both aperture LED panels. They are 22 by 24 LEDs. The primary light I use an amber filter on simply because I don't know if you've noticed, but I am quite pallid, and so this adds just a little bit of color to my face. The fill light over here, however, does not use a filter. It just has the plain kind of diffuser filter on it and everything. And when I stand right in the middle of the two and everything, as you can see, I get a good amount of that amber light on my left-hand side, and I get just a hair bit of that fill light over here on my right-hand side. All right, so my backdrop used to be the bane of my existence. I actually had a system that was based around these hooks that I had up in the ceiling that I would have to connect with these clamps and everything. It never quite worked right, and it was also a pain in the butt to set up. And so a couple of years ago, I invested in upgrading my capabilities with my backdrops. And so now I have this rack of 3 different backdrops that I will use depending upon what necessities I have for the given project. Probably 90% of the stuff I shoot is with this backdrop right here, which is the backdrop that you're probably used to seeing in a lot of my videos that has the kind of high school photo quality to it. In addition, I have a plain white backdrop that I very frequently use for my flow circle videos. And I have a green screen backdrop as well, which I almost never use. Okay, so we've got our backdrop, we've got our lighting. Now let's talk a little bit about sound. So for pretty much everything I do, and this video is actually one of the exceptions to this rule, I will use a lavalier mic. This is not a very hardcore piece of technology here. I think I just did a search for lavalier mic that plugs into a smartphone on Amazon, and this is the first thing that comes up. It's made by a company called Pop Voice. And nowadays, because I upgraded 2 years ago to the newest iPhone, I also have to use a little dongle in order to get it to plug into that little lightning socket on the edge of the phone and everything. Why do I use a lavalier mic? Just because the quality of the audio is so much better. The closer you can get to your mouth is always better when it comes to audio. And, you know, in my 20s, I spent a lot of time as an audio engineer. So engineering the audio on my videos is actually something that I tend to spend more time than most on. And I will, of course, run my audio through like noise reduction and EQ and compression. And one of the big things that I try to do is get a nice even level out of my audio and then normalize it so that it's a consistent loudness and everything. And for the record, the only reason that this video did not use a lavalier mic is because I am out of recording sources for it. I'm actually recording this video on the very phone that I usually use for my audio recording, and I have a secondary phone, but it has a purpose that will be revealed later. Okay, so next obvious question. What am I using for a camera? Basically, everything that I shoot nowadays is shot with this camera right here. This is a Sony a6500 that was very, very graciously donated to me from Liene Lillquist. Liene, you are a rock star. Thank you so much for this. Usually I am shooting in picture profile 7, and I almost always just shoot in log in terms of like the gamma and everything. Wonderful, wonderful camera. The only kind of downside to it is that it can only record for about 30 minutes at a time, and its battery life is absolutely terrible. Whenever I go shoot outside, I usually have to have about 2 or 3 batteries on me because it will devour them in no time. I use 2 different lenses for this. One of them is just the kit lens that comes through it. Basically, anything you've seen me shot in that is full body was using this lens. It is a 16 to 50 millimeter lens that ranges from 3.5 to 5.6 in terms of its aperture. I always tend, when I'm shooting indoor, well, just in general, I try to keep the aperture as open as possible. Partially because because of the other considerations in how I shoot and everything, it helps make sure that everything is well lit. And I also, with the other lens, that is this Zeiss, I believe this, oh, here we go. It is a 24 millimeter lens that goes down to a 1.8 aperture and everything. This was also donated to me from Liene Lillquist, and this, I feel like this is my secret weapon. Absolutely all of my vlogs, as well as most of my outdoor material, get shot on this, specifically because since the aperture opens to 1.8, I can get that lovely bokeh blur behind me, which I think is really helpful in terms of setting me apart from the background. Like, I'm in focus and the background isn't. All right, so this right here is one of my shooting setups. Basically, I have my tripod set up at one end of the room, and at the other end of the room, I have my backdrop and my lighting and everything, right? This is usually the setup that I use if I'm going to do some full body shots and everything. And I'll give you a little bit of a close-up here, but the tripod actually, I have some spike tape on the ground here that I use for placing the tripod every time. And then I just like adjust it until I have the backdrop centered within the viewfinder and everything. Here's a really fun and interesting trick to how I shoot my videos. Remember how I said I had another phone, but it was going to be engaged in another task? Well, this is that task. I actually use this phone as a teleprompter. Whenever I have a script, I will have the script, basically, so this is an app that I found years ago called Teleprompter. Trick is, though, is that the app got discontinued, which really blows because it is an amazing app and I've never found another one as good. One of the things I really like about this app is that it's actually voice activated. That is, it follows around as I'm saying stuff. So if I get lost or have to start over, it will automatically scroll back to the spot that I missed out on and everything. So I will show you this right quick in action and see how it responds to my voice. Awesome. So, poi moves or poi tricks. What do we call the things we learn? And how about poi patterns? How do those fit into this scheme? So you see how when I'm talking it scrolls and when I'm not it stops? Super useful. That doesn't mean that I never blow my lines, though. I do blow my lines all the time, and when that happens, I'll usually just scroll back and start the teleprompter again. Actually, let me show you something right quick, something that might not be immediately apparent based upon this video. And that is that when I am sitting out there against the backdrop and everything, that backdrop isn't actually terribly wide. In fact, it's only just barely a couple feet past my arm span. So how exactly does that get wider in all my videos? Well, as it turns out, I use a little bit of digital trickery to mask the edges of it and get rid of the sides of the room. And I then use a version of the background that I have digitally extended to either end of the room to fill in the details there. But when I'm just shooting narration, I actually usually pull the camera just a little bit closer to the backdrop. Like about halfway across the room or so. I'm really looking into the viewfinder for that moment when the edges of the screen disappear, so then I don't need to use any digital trickery when I'm editing it. And you'll be able to see then that this puts me in a position where I'm very, very visible on camera as I'm doing my narration and everything, and then I can cut to wider shots that have the digitally extended backdrop, and hey, it looks seamless. So aside from that, the only other camera setup that I really use in my indoor studio here involves using a GoPro. And I have two different setups that I'll use with that. The first one involves using basically a forehead strap and everything, and that's for when I want to do point of view or POV footage and everything. And the second is when I want to get overhead footage, and this is actually kind of a silly little system, but it works for me, and that is that I have this little gooseneck clamp here for my, my GoPro, and I actually have, let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, there it is. Do you see that hook up there in the ceiling? Basically, I will grab the clamp onto that hook, and that will give me a bird's eye view of my living room that I can then use for my overhead shots and everything. It's pretty lo-fi, but it works. So yeah, I like to think that I get a lot of mileage out of a relatively small space. So there you have it. I think that that's pretty much all the setups that I use for shooting my videos, all the equipment that I use for shooting my videos. The only other thing then is to edit them on that there laptop. Please ignore the absolute mess that my desk is over there. Yeah, so I will leave links to all of the things that I talked about in this video, all of the different pieces of equipment that I use for shooting my videos, down in that description if you want to grab any of these pieces for yourself. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe so that other people can find this video, and of course you can help my channel grow. And of course, a huge thank you, because this video would not be possible without the kind contributions of these amazing folks right here. These are my Flow patrons over on Patreon, and they, along with the wonderful folks listed down in the description, help to make this video and all the videos on this channel possible. If you would like to sign up to support this work that I'm doing, bringing the love of poi spinning and flow arts to the broader, wider world and helping people connect with their brains and their bodies, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and signing up. There you can get early access to all of my content, as well as a say in what topics I tackle in the future, plus some great behind the scenes and extras content as well, so you should go check that out. Please and thank you. Would you like to know more about how I edit my videos? Would you like to know more about, say, like the camera settings that I use or the editing techniques that I use? How I do my overlays and everything, let me know down in the comments. And if you want to share your own equipment and studio stuff and everything, I would love to see it. If you're watching this on Instagram, you can make a post and tag me and show off all of the various things you use and the studio setup that you have for yourself, yeah? Awesome. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you get outside and get in some awesome flow today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on Wednesday. Peace.